great white shark in the water in production and many other things, frankly. So this is the last fireside chat on how I doubled my eXp production in the first 12 months. So we have Elizabeth Riley and Renee Funk, who's also been moderating for us. So you guys are pretty familiar with Renee. And we're going to do a bit of a different format here. Again, I'm the moderator today, so this isn't going to be professional. It's not like inside the actor's studio. I'm not James Lipton. We're going to wing this baby. But I do have some questions that I'm curious about, and maybe some of you guys also feel that same way. So let's start off real quick. They're in two different markets. Elizabeth Riley is in Austin, Texas, which has been a great place to be if you listen to Joe Rogan the last 5 years. Apparently, the whole world has moved there. And then Renee Funk has also been a recipient of upset Northeasterners, and she lives in Orlando, Florida, and they're all living in Florida as well. So anyway, welcome to the two different sides of the world here. I'll start off with Renee. So Renee, when did you join eXp? What year? And then give me a little bit of a temperature check on what your production was, the 12 months to your anniversary date, and then the 12 months post joining.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Rich, for organizing. It's been a lot of fun these last few weeks, lots of great impact, and everyone who's shared their time and talent has made a difference. So it's been an honor to be a part of it. My name's Renee Funk. I'm a team leader in Orlando, joined eXp Realty coming up on 8 years ago. And have been a part of a journey which once started with just 6 agents, closing about 16 million back then. To now in Central Florida, we run a hybrid model. So I have 120 agents total in Central Florida with an intimate size leads team that is currently, as of June 1st, we'll be at 5 agents on our leads team. Collectively, year to date in 2023, we are at 92 million and change year to date as a group here in Central Florida. And we've grown from 6 agents to now being able to say that we have the #1 eXp branch office in 2 very key zip codes here in Central Florida. Very proud of that. And it's the honor that I have to be able to get to go to work with these amazing humans.
So one thing, Renee, just to kind of summarize that a little bit, obviously your production went up and then it's continued to go up. And part of that is, like you said, a hybrid model, which a lot of people don't understand out there if you're not in our ecosphere, which is you can have a team and you can have an organization. And
Yep.
you can have both running at the same time, and one could be larger than the other. Well, actually, your team would most likely be smaller than your organization. But I used to see when I was on social media pictures of you and your husband and your kids going to Disney World as though it's in your backyard, right? Do you
It
live?
is. Yes, I live in Windermere, so we can see the fireworks from the end of our street. I actually was today at Disney for a team building event.
All right.
Yeah, we are right there in the thick of it.
Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit of the learning lessons to scale, because I don't care who you are or how many YouTube videos you watch or who your coach is, you're going to pay the stupid tax going from technician to entrepreneur. And it's kind of nice to listen to people who have kind of gone through the obstacles and can save you some mistakes you're if you're spongy as a student. So thanks, Renee. And Elizabeth's coming into our call. I've been friends with Elizabeth for a few years now, actually very good friends with Elizabeth. And I've never seen her off. She's having a real estate experience where she missed something in her personal life because of just too many plates spinning and not enough fingers. So Elizabeth, thanks for joining us, even if you're off. You're going to see, if you see what Elizabeth looks like off, you're not going to she looks like on. She's a pro. So you're in the Austin market. You joined eXp early. I mean, what does that mean? How early? 14?
I joined eXp May of 2015.
15
is when I officially, yeah, it was the end of April, but my anniversary is May to May.
What
So
was the stock trading at, Elizabeth?
60 cents.
60 cents. It was a junk stock.
And the crazy thing is I heard about eXp when it was 10 cents.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, it's timing. It's timing, right?
It doesn't matter how early you join. Everybody says we should have done this a year ago. And then also, how many agents were at this company?
I'm agent 466. So when I first started talking to them, they were around 400.
Wow.
But I'm agent 466. Yep.
Okay.
I was the first one in Austin and one of the first ones in Texas.
So Elizabeth Riley is still in production. I think a lot of people get this bad rap that real estate agents are not selling real estate at eXp. We sell more transactions than any other company. I don't sell real estate, so I deserve that criticism, but she doesn't. She's been iconing
Well,
what, 8 or 9 years in a row. How many times have you iconed here?
I just hit my 9th, and in fact, a box just showed up, so I think that's my 9th icon award. Yeah.
Ninth icon award. Okay, so
Yeah.
when you're a top producer here and you hit a milestone of what an icon agent is, they gift you the $16,000 back in stock. So she got that $16,000 at what was the price on your first one? Let's just
I don't know. I think around $1 a share,
all right.
and
So let's just
that was well before it went up and split as well. And I've never touched any of my stock because it was, that's not why I was doing it,
I
right?
know.
It's a nest egg for later on. So I've never touched any of it, but I would probably say that first award's $1 a share.
All right, so later on is always coming. I used to always be the young guy in the room, and that hasn't happened to me for a long time. So that means she got 16,000 shares of stock for $1 back in 2015 when she iconed. Our stock is at what, $12.93 this morning. So that's 206,000, but that's post split. So you got to times that by two. So that first year $16,000 gift is $413,000 as of today's math. Do this for 9 years in a row, and you wonder why Elizabeth's background looks so pretty and designed forward. Okay, so
And that's just the icon stock. That's the cool thing too. That's
I
not
know.
our first transactions. That's not anything else. It's a lot more fun to get stock instead of a baseball cap every year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I used to get a pat on the head in Facebook and would tell all the people that actually used me as a real estate agent how great I was or how
Yeah.
great I wasn't. All right. So tell me real quick, Elizabeth, what was your production coming from Keller Williams in 2014-ish to 2015? And then what did it look like 12 months after?
All right. So this is where you guys are going to see the messy Elizabeth Riley. Okay. And I'm not as articulate and structured and numbers like Renee is, because quite frankly, I didn't know my numbers. I was not running a business. I had a hobby. Okay. So all of my years at KW, I was there for 10 years, Georgia and Texas. I never knew my numbers because it didn't move the needle. I didn't really care. And I was doing it because I had to, because I was an investor and I had to. And so the numbers didn't really matter to me because I wasn't the sole provider. Does that make sense? So I didn't really follow that. Now, here's what I can tell you though. When I was at KW, my 10th year in the business, I was in Austin and we had 650 agents and I was number one. And I remember I came off the stage and I was number one. And I don't know what my numbers were, but I came home and I said I was getting out of the business because my broker said, okay, you're going to double that next year. What are you going to do that next year? And I said, I'm not going to do that next year because at KW, if you were at KW, it was God family business. And for me to be able to even get to where I was there, it was all business. And I had 4 children and a husband that traveled and it was not worth it to me. So I don't know what my numbers were. I don't know, maybe 8 million-ish.
Well, I mean, it's hard. It's hard too because we've had inflation happen and everything's more expensive. So when you go,
Yeah.
it should be going by
And that was
transactions.
2014.
Yeah,
So
2014.
maybe
Yeah,
8 million was a lot back then. And it's funny because I look and I don't know. Sorry. What I can tell you though, is I came over to eXp. My market center had 650 agents. eXp had 466 agents, but the conversations were different. The collaboration was different. And so if I looked at from when I joined eXp, now I started paying attention to my numbers a little bit more because I was the first icon. And now I'm trying to figure out how to get to icon. So if you look at when I joined eXp, that first full year now, we had 2,000 agents in the company nationwide. And we were at the awards ceremony and I was number one. And when they called my name, so 2000, I'm number one in 2000. So obviously my production increased. But when they called my name, I'm clapping. And if y'all know Jill Liebernight, she was sitting at the table. She patted me on the shoulder. She's like, they just called your name. It's like, there's no way they called my name. So I go up and Glenn was like, maybe you should know your numbers. I was like, actually, this is more fun not knowing them. So, but anyway, I was number one in 2000. And then that following year, we had 5,000 agents and I was number one. So
Yeah.
my business was changing, my business was growing, but I had more, I don't think there's much balance. There isn't any such thing as balance, but I had more leverage and freedom in a different way. And I was enjoying what I was doing instead of it being a job in a hamster wheel where I wanted to get out of the business. So now I was enjoying it. And now I'm starting to realize, oh, it's not just a hobby. Maybe I need to start treating this as a business. And it wasn't until later on in my years at eXp that I started running a business like a business as opposed to a hobby. So what I can tell you as far as numbers is 2022 was my best year. I did
What did you-
37 million. I'm an individual agent. I do have a self-organized team, but their production is their production, my production is my production. And we just leverage each other, and we're more of a referral group. Last year was a little bit lower, the market was down. I also gave a lot of my business away because I was doing other things that were inspiring me. So I think I did about 27 million last year. Year to date right now, I don't know.
So let me just give you guys that don't know Elizabeth Riley, because if you're not in our world, you guys are in for a bonus here. Elizabeth Riley probably still is the #1 agent as far as icon trophies out of 90,000 agents at this
I'm
company.
the only one with 9.
That's right. And then she also is number, kind of back and forth between number 5 and 6 out of 90,000 in revenue share organizations, which is probably north of 12,000 agents right now. I bet you I know your numbers better than you do. To be quite
You
honest.
probably do.
Anyway.
I was gonna say, Rich, you probably have all this charted out.
And my wife says I'm a terrible listener, but I am able to, some of it's. So anyway, so what ends up happening here is that she went from the technician role into the entrepreneurial role, and doesn't count her numbers in either way because she's more about serving people, and the collateral image of that is what it is. But you do have to take a temperature check occasionally. And then when you have a company that's giving you money back, you tend to pay more attention to numbers also, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so Renee, which resources do you think at our model, and which, by the way, you guys were both here when the model was very primitive. For me personally, I loved eXp when it was tiny because we all knew each other. And now it's a large Titanic, and it's a better company and it offers so many more things. And you have to work within the networks of people that you know, but it's a different animal. And I think when we're at 400,000 agents, we'll say, oh my God, remember how personal it was when we were at 90,000? What resources impacted your growth? Like, what did you come over and say, okay, this is new. This is new information for me. These are new tools. And how can I tactically put them to work to where our production goes up?
Well, you hit the nail on the head as far as the company today being very different than it was almost 8 years ago. If I look back, I'm agent number 4 in all of my MLS in Central Florida. So when I work with my husband, and when Jeff and I were making a decision to come to eXp, it was like, eXp who, right? And so now the conversation is very different. We don't introduce ourselves when we walk into a room, and yet there's still so much opportunity. As far as tools in the tool chest, it's really hard to pick just one. If I think about tools, what I would say has been the biggest differentiator is the seat at the table is often undervalued. It's being around people who think differently. Because I came from 100% model, and many people in that model think, oh, well, it's more affordable, it's more this, and what you typically find in that model is, number one, a whole bunch of closed doors. Because no one wants to share. There's no shareholder element to it that people want to lift as we climb. And then thinking about that transition is who we were with allowed us to see opportunity different. Back when I started a team almost 10 years ago, it was you were an individual agent, you start a team, you make sure everybody on that team is addicted to your leads. The only way they can succeed is you. And then they leave you and they leave the brokerage and they go off, and that's the end of it. It's like this constant grind, right? And one of the best things that I've gained from being a team leader at eXp is to understand that success is not in a box, that you can redefine the industry to be what you want it to be. And it has enabled Jeff and I to create a team where there's no ceiling. We help agents graduate from the team. And there's a whole bunch of myths around teams that's stifling, and that you can't have your own production credit, you can't have your own reviews. There's myths on teams like there's nobody's business. And yet at eXp, the question is, what does team mean to you as a team leader and as team members? So, Rich, it's been redefining what we can build.
Yeah, well, the place at the table is key because, sorry, I'm just going to be a little bit more conversational on this.
Yeah.
But like, one thing that always seemed like such bullshit to me was that the way that people structured teams all these years, where the best people on your team compete against you because they leave, the margin you're making off them is at the expense of their opportunity. And then the people that are terrible, that never score a point, want to stay with you forever. And then you have to create the courage to go over there and fire them or shake the tree. So I hated teams, and I think that we were taught these teams. I was never at Keller Williams, so if I'm slandering Keller Williams, we'll just send it to my inbox. Like, well, I don't know if I even have Facebook Messenger, but anyway, the point is that essentially we saw somebody attempt to build a team that we all copied, and it doesn't work. And what we had to relearn at eXp was you build an organization, and then your team graduates into your organization and creates their own teams, but it's always a stepping stone, but not a destination point, which I think you very well put. And then the seat at the table is how allowed us to figure out how to run a business, because when you're working in silos, competing against the person next to you, you're not talking to independent brokerage owners or TLs or any of these things. So the discussion that we have is so much more entrepreneurial, and it really makes you sort of pop off the jar and get outside so you can read different labels and not be stuck in what is working. Everybody's so stuck in, oh, this is working for me. I'm like, well, I don't know if it's working for you. We're all missing the boat on things in our personal life. We all have no balance, right?
You know that thing,
Working
rip
for
off and duplicate, Rich?
Yeah,
Rip off and duplicate in the real estate industry is garbage.
it's
It's
garbage.
garbage. And it's creating missed opportunities. So when Elizabeth and I share conversations, I've earned icon 7 times, Elizabeth 9 times. When
Yeah,
we're
you're right on.
sharing conversations, the
Hey, don't go to
conversation,
sleep, Elizabeth. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
right?
Oh, I know.
They hit different because the conversation is, how many of the agents can we help gain their next chapter if they want to be a team leader? How many icons can we make? Great, I'm an icon. That's not good enough. We're
Yeah.
having conversations on how many icons can we make? And
Yeah.
that's a whole different table to sit at. There's no ceiling.
But
No,
at the
no,
same time, not everybody wants to be an icon too, right? And so that's what's cool, that
that's
this
true.
company can meet them where they want to be and push them to as far as they want it to go. And when you talk about resources, it's interesting because when I'm talking to people about the tools, it's really cool that we have all these different tools on a shelf, and I can use whatever tools I need. But as I grow my business, then I can put those tools up on that tool shelf, and then there's other tools. So I'd rather have too many tools to choose from than not enough. And I think we've done a really great job as far as adding more tools. It's crazy that Workplace is going away, because I love Workplace. Because I think a lot of conversations happen there, and there's a lot of libraries being created and so much wealth of knowledge that I'm learning from people at all levels of business. Brand new agents, I learn more probably from brand new agents than I do from seasoned agents. And I will tell you, I'm on the other side of transactions with seasoned agents right now, and they're dropping the balls. They're not relevant. They're not sharp. They don't understand the contracts. And it's actually, those are more challenging. They've gotten lazy.
Yeah.
Right. And they're not staying on top of it. And so what I love is all the resources and the knowledge, and it's all at our fingertips. So we don't have the excuse. We don't have the excuse that this isn't available. We have it available. We just have to know where to use it and use the tools that are set forth in front of us. But the collaborations is huge. And I know I tell the story all the time. When I first came on board, you want to talk about eXp who? They thought we were insane. I mean, they told me, you've made it. You're where you are, and you're going to go backwards. I'm like, I don't think it's backwards. I'm miserable. I want to find my passion and the joy for this business again. So that's not backwards for me, right? But when I tell the story, a couple of the first people that I met, I wanted to get more into luxury. Failed big time there too. That's a whole nother conversation, right? And I branded myself Lux Property Group because, well, if you're Lux Property Group, you're luxury, right? Well, I lost a lot of clients that thought that's all I did, right? There was an education piece there. So that's a whole big failure on my part. But two of the first people I met were Chuck, I was going to say Fazio, not Chuck Fazio, Chuck Keller and Doug Rago out of Beverly Hills, Hollywood Hills, California. Like, that's luxury. And I went in with our little avatars. I did not get the world. I really did not understand that. That was not a tool that I embraced at the beginning. And I sat my little avatar down. I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be fascinating. And why are they going to open up their playbooks? And why are they going to want to share everything with me? Well, number one, we're not competition, right? They're California. I'm Texas. Number two, most people don't do what you tell them to do anyway. And number three, if I win, we're not even the same organization. It doesn't matter. If I win, they win, we all win, because we're all eXp. We're all shareholders of this company. I was like, that was my big aha moment. And then I start reaching out to people all over the country, learning differently. That's how Renee and I met. Rich, that's how you and I met. And so
Yeah.
I think our people are our biggest asset and our biggest resource that we have at this company. And so when you plug in and show up, no matter if you're brand new as of yesterday or if you've been in the business 40 years, you are not going to fail in our model. And that's our biggest, I think that's our biggest resource.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, the amount of transparent masterminding that goes on here for $0 is hard to even comprehend until you're over here. I met Chuck Keller in Arizona. I think it was the first time I spoke on stage, and you were like, "Oh no, we got another one of these guys over
Oh
here."
yeah, we were not Rich. Actually, Renee and I sat next to each other. Fun fact, y'all, we were not Rich Tomasini fans because we're like, all right, here we go, another ego on the stage.
We were
But we love
wrong.
him.
We were wrong.
Well, no, you probably weren't wrong. My ego has been getting killed every year, and I'm almost tolerable at the stage. I think at some point I'll just be wearing some kind of shawl over my head and blessing people. I'm trying to kill the ego. One of the things I was really captivated on that stage trying to explain the opportunity to people, because what I remembered is I asked how much of the audience, how many people in the audience here are brand new, and like almost the whole room opened up. So I was like, wow, let me speak to the actual audience that's in front of me. But I met Chuck Keller and I'd watched him on Jeff Lewis, Flipping Out. Remember that TV show, Flipping Out?
Yeah.
And he was a EXP agent on that show. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, I'm like, there's one of us on there. I couldn't believe that we had made our entrance into TV. Goes to show you how small we were and how that was a big deal. So basically there's lead generation and there's hobbyist, right? And one of the biggest problems that realtors have in my 25 years experience is that most of us can't keep in touch with our clients. Most of us don't have CRMs. Most of us don't work our contact manager. And if your SOI is enough people to where your phone rings, you have a business plan. And if it's not, you panic and you're serving tables and talking about getting out, right? So we've seen sort of this algorithm happen. And while we all are aware of that, I think to get to a certain level, you have to really break through and just be responsible. So what systems do you guys use, if you want to share, or how systematic is your approach with your contact base? And then how regimented are you in making sure that every new face and name goes in there? I'm sure you're outsourcing it, but if you could expand upon that, that'd be great. Renee, start us off.
If it doesn't happen in a CRM, it doesn't happen, right? And here's the thing is it doesn't matter which CRM. It doesn't matter if it's a spreadsheet, right? And what I won't say, and I'm cautious too, because context is so critical here, is you need systems, you need processes. Elizabeth, you will often say, like, don't compare someone else's day 100 to, right? Like, and I feel that way about systems and tech stacks, Rich, is I can give you a list of all the tech stack I use. And yes, that's out of context because I'm a 10-year team leader that's grown a business, right? What I am advocating for agents to understand is you have to have a plan. And if you don't have one, don't worry, many don't. Get around people who do, because they'll make sure that you have the right roadmap based on where you want to go. Because to Elizabeth's point, not everybody wants to be an icon. That's totally fine. We have agents that are super stoked to close, 5 deals a year. That's okay. That's their version of success. However, no matter how much you're doing, you need to treat it like a business. And that's another thing, Rich, with eXp is there's a clear distinction between agents who treat it like a job, which would be someone who doesn't have the systems and processes. It's not a job. It's actually a business. You're an entrepreneur. So number one thing is if you're not in a CRM, you're dead in the water. You might get by and it's fine. You're not building a business. You're building a job.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Totally agree. And I think for anybody here that's on this call that's in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, a lot of us, lived on yellow pads and were charming enough to get calls back, and we thought that was a full game plan. It's just not.
It's not.
So I agree. What's your contact manager that you currently use, Renee? Because
We're 10 years with Follow Up Boss, but again, I'm a team leader, right? And so at
Yeah.
eXp, here's the thing, I'll whether I meet with team leaders considering eXp or I meet with, brand new baby agents that are just acquiring their license, they'll say, well, what solutions? Leverage what's complementary around you first. So come to eXp, leverage the heck out of KV Core. Don't spend a dime or align with a team that will give you these resources. The shiny object syndrome is a high reason why 86% of agents quit this industry within the first 18 months, because not enough people are around them to say, you don't need to spend money on that. Everything you have is right here. And Rich, you talked about eXp being like, this is not what I call a plus plus brokerage. When you go to other brokerages and there's all that fine print fee, oh, but if you want access to this training, you want a mentor, it's all plus plus. eXp, Kickstart, KV Core, all of these solutions, they're given to us.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah, it's plug and play. All you got to do is just be responsible and get it done. I agree totally. Elizabeth, you're relationship based. I mean, I know your business model and it's your personal life philosophy, frankly. It's just expanded. What do you do to keep all the people that are in your life organized and dripped on or in front of you?
Yeah. So I used an Excel spreadsheet probably for the first 5 or 8 years of my business,
Me
because
too.
that's what worked for me, right? I could just put their information in there. I'd export all of their names and addresses and just go from there. But for me, I'm 100% referral. And so when you're reliant on the people that know, like, and trust you, then you have to make sure you're in front of them. And it's funny because people will always ask me, well, are you only putting the people that have sold with you? I was like, no, I put everybody in there because some of my best referral sources have never bought a home with me. Not because they wouldn't use me, but they're already in their dream home or whatever the situation is, but they refer me to people all the time. And so I treat everybody in my database like the same. I don't, first of all, it's confusing for me. I don't have A, B, C, D or whatever. I do use a CRM now. I don't use KV Core because we didn't have it when I came to the company. I use Follow Up Boss. I don't use it well. If you look at Renee's Follow Up Boss, you will like dig yourself into a hole and never come out, because I'm like, oh, that's what this is supposed to do. I have no idea. I'm just not wired that way. I have no C in my personality disc profile at all. Okay. So I'm all S and D. So I use it mainly as a story. I could really go back to Excel and be fine. But I put everybody in there, and I'm very, it's all about consistency. And whatever you do, whether you do what I do or whether you're calling leads or open houses or door knock, I don't care what you're doing that generates business that's authentic to who you are, but be consistent. And so I'm consistently touching my database at least twice a month. I used to do 3 times. I've gotten away from email newsletters just because we all get bombarded with emails, and I was watching the stats on the back end, and it didn't really move the needle. So I didn't want to be an annoyance. So I'm not saying you're an annoyance if you're doing emails. You just have to be very intentional with what you're doing. But it was just one more thing that I just took off for now. But I have at least one direct mail piece in their mailbox every single month. And it's not a just listed, it's not a just sold. It's not a look at everything I sold this month or look at all the stats in your neighborhood. It's really about getting to know me or getting to know them or serving them, and just, hey, I'm a mom. I'm like you. I'm a community member. I'm a leader. I'm in like all these different things. And so we'll send things that keep me top of mind so that I'm making an impact on the way to the trash can. So every single month, when they're seeing something from me over and over and over, they're seeing my name over and over. And when a friend says, hey, oh, I'm thinking of selling my house. Oh, you got to call my friend Elizabeth. Only because they're seeing me. They might not have seen me for 5 or 10 years, but they're seeing me consistently in their mailbox and they think they've been seeing me. Make sense?
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I also use an app called Reach. I don't usually rely on apps or touches or things like that because I don't outsource this stuff. I mean, my mailers are my 4 kids lined up at the kitchen bar, stamping, stuffing, mailing, labeling, right? It's a
Got to
family
make
business. They
you
do
got
all
to
that.
make them earn their way, Elizabeth.
That's right. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're a part of my business as well. And I mean, I was pregnant with my son when I first got my license. So all 4 of my kids have grown up in the business. This is all they know. And what's super cool is my oldest, who's about to graduate, he just got accepted in the University of Utah in the business school there. That's number 8 in the nation for entrepreneurial business degrees. I wonder where he gets some of that, right? It's super exciting to see that rubbing off on them. But the Reach app I use because I want to make sure I don't forget somebody. I'm not relying on, like, Renee's real good. She has the text feature and the phone features integrated with KV Core. I mean, Follow Up Boss. I don't do that. So I can send one message and it goes to everybody as an individual text to my client. So I can say, hey, I was in a neighborhood and thought of you. I don't have to say which neighborhood. I don't have to say your neighborhood. I can just say, I thought about you. I'd love to get together for coffee. Let me know when you're free. They don't have to. Going to coffee, the actual action about going to coffee isn't a touch. The fact that you reached out to them is a touch. You're still top of mind. So I do things like that. And especially the agent to agent relationships, that has grown significantly since joining from eXp. KW, I didn't have those referrals, right? But at eXp, that's a huge resource here. And so when you step up, and I tend to step up even more for my eXp referrals because I want them to know they are taken care of. Their clients are taken care of, that we're some of the best in the business. And so I'm systematic in that regard, but using technology to be processed and systemized is not really my strength.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I think that most people that are in real estate actually would love to be able to be relational and get business that way versus having the prospect or use a business plan of it. So your approach is by far the most craved. I don't know if people are
sorry to interrupt you on that too. One thing I want to talk to whoever's on here too is they'll say, oh, well, you're relationship based, you're outgoing, you're friendly, you're networking and things like that. Completely inaccurate. I'm very much an introvert. And I mean, you two know me really, really well, and the people that know me, but I mean, if you get me in a setting and I don't know somebody and it has to be small talk, I am incredibly uncomfortable. If I have to go into a networking event, I'm incredibly uncomfortable. So I have to force myself. And if I'm being honest, I'm hiding behind the direct mail piece because it's easier for me to do that. I still stay top of mind, but otherwise it's uncomfortable for me to go out and just network. So I'm not getting business because of my charming personality.
Well, no, it's a little nuanced, Elizabeth, because you said it very quickly in passing. I don't know if anyone caught it, but you're an S and a D, and it does trigger one's mind to think, oh, you're not an I, because I think everybody sees you in a social light, but you are a relationship based person because you really don't do things typically for an agenda. It's more relationship served.
Right.
It's just how you feel about interacting and with small talk might be contrary to that, but yeah, it's an interesting mix. Renee, what do you think? So like you got most of the agents, believe it or not, haven't been here in 2007, 8, 9. So they haven't earned the white hair and stress and credit ding that some of us have. You joined in 2017 or 18 in this industry, or 22, and you're shooting fish in a barrel to a varying degree. But you also haven't had your first tidal wave. And we've had 11 or 12 interest rate hikes in the last 2 years. Things have changed, right? COVID was counterintuitive to the way that the market responded to it. So where do you think we're headed? You have any just rough thoughts on that? I know we're all guessing.
There's no crystal ball, although there are trends that you can identify. Although I have only had a license for about 11 years, I've been married to a realtor for 22, which makes me a realtor by proximity for a lot of years. So that means as a wife of a realtor, we lived through 2008, 2009, 2010 financial and economical collapse. When the power company was coming to our rented condo to turn the power off. Lived it, right? Lived through some other obstacles. Most notable, we can all probably recall on this call, is 2020, right? Any of these moments in time, pay attention to who digs their head in the sand and who stands up taller and says, I know what's coming next. There's going to be a number of people that dig their head in the sand, and I'm sorry for them. They need to change the seat at the table, which table they're sitting at. And then there's going to be a number of the smart agents who look at it and go, where's the opportunity? Because 2024 is probably one of the biggest opportunities the industry has seen. The problem is many agents are in their head about it. Right. And so what do I think? And I've been on a few panels recently where this has been debated. It's okay. I can have an unpopular opinion. Smart agents who work in the buyer sector, who represent buyers, have an opportunity to actually earn more income.
Okay, so you're going to have to go one layer deeper on that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's a couple things.
I think they're feeling the opposite. They're nervous.
They are feeling the opposite. And because of this is when we think about The humans we serve, that we earn an opportunity to serve. We've traditionally have sellers that have been a very structured consultative approach. There's a pre-consult on a phone, there's a consultation either on Zoom, mostly in person, and then we acquire the customer with a contract, a listing agreement, and we move forward. We choose as a business owner to onboard the seller. The
Yes.
smart agents are going to look at the buyers exactly the same and say, I'm very clear on these two questions. Which buyers am I seeking to serve? And what are the solutions I have for those buyers? I'm going to choose to onboard through a consultation, a pre-consult and an in-person or Zoom consult, and make a decision as a business owner on if I'm onboarding the buyer, if I'm able to provide them value. Not every buyer is for every agent. And when we get clear on that, what's going to happen is we're going to work smarter, not harder, and we're actually going to end up delivering more value than we did before. All of this is going to yield an opportunity for smart buyers agents to make more income. I won't continue to, suck the air
Oh,
with the call, but
no, no, no.
I'm pretty damn confident about it.
No, no, no. You open the jar on that of how we're going to have to treat buyers like we've treated sellers, and I totally agree with you, Elizabeth. Any contrasting thoughts, or are you in agreement with that?
I mean, not contrasting thoughts, but I think it's opportunity. And I have the gift of hindsight in a number of different ways. I mean, I moved from Atlanta, Georgia to Austin, Texas in 2008. Well, if you were in the business in 2008, what happened? According to the majority of people, is the market crashed. And when people heard that I was getting into business in Texas, they're like, are you crazy? The market's horrible. I was like, it's the way you look at it. I came from a bad market. Atlanta had burst. All I had been doing was short sales and foreclosures. Austin was a better market. So for me, I mean, Renee talked about the people that had their head in the sand. I'm like, great, you go put your head in the sand. This is a better market. It's an opportunity, and I'm going to go thrive. Okay. I mean, eXp, look at eXp. Everybody said I was crazy. It was opportunity. What we were called the Amazon.com of real estate. What if I had bought stock and believed in Amazon when they were trying to sell books online? Everybody thought they were crazy. And look at what happened. To me, it was opportunity. And if it didn't work, then I can go back. I'm all good. If I could go back and go to any other company because they need top producers so we can pay their bills and build their dream instead of my own. For me, it was opportunity. What am I going to miss if I say no to this now? I mean, and so I think anybody that's consistent and builds a brand, it doesn't matter what the market does. If you're consistent and you know who you are and you know the business you want to be in and you know the people you need to be surrounded by and you're in the right environment, I don't care what the market does. I'm not concerned about the markets. We've had lots of ups and downs. COVID, we pivoted quickly. eXp was leading the front with that. The NAR stuff, eXp is leading again. I think we're locked arms with the best company we can be locked arms with. Our new CEO is amazing. He is not messing around. So I'm not worried about the market. And I don't think any of us should be, because you guys are in the right rooms. It's being consistent. Have head down, be consistent with who you are. The market is always going to change. You just have to be agile and know that you're in the right rooms to be able to be successful. So I don't know whether buyers agents or sellers, listing agents are make more money and do better. I mean, I think it's about time. Buyers agents should have been doing all these things anyway. Like, I've been in the business long enough. That's what we had to do. We had to go have a buyer rep signed. We had to go have a buyer consultation. We should have been doing that anyway. This is now an opportunity for us to elevate our businesses, elevate our communities, elevate our industry. And so those that are going to be agile and pivot and can do that and embrace that are going to do really, really well. And that's where they're going to get their unfair advantage. So I want all of us to be able to take that unfair advantage. And it could be the buyer opportunity. I mean, things keep changing. NAR's a mess. But I don't care what the market's doing, quite frankly, because I know whatever it's doing, I'm gonna be just fine, because success leaves clues, and I know what I've been doing for the last 19 years over multiple different market conditions.
Exchanges. Rich, there's a data point we all need to be paying attention to. Those who are representing buyers. And that data point is the number of showings it's taking you to get a buyer from first hand raise, right? First showing to contract. And this is a data point that the fund collection here in Orlando has been paying very close attention to for about 2-ish months. We knew NAR was coming, but within it, we woke up and it was here, right? And so being clear on how many showings. When we've put more focus on our consultations for the buyers, guess what's happened? We understand the buyer's needs better. So you know what's happening? The number of showings is starting to decrease. And I truly believe confidently, the more attention we put onto the consultation will create more opportunity where the showing list will become more refined, therefore creating less time for not only the buyers, but for the buyer's agent. And that's another untapped opportunity that some agents aren't seeing. Whenever there's change, we're afraid of change as humans. What I'm going to nudge everybody on this call is when you see change and you're a real estate agent, you're a pro, lick your wounds for a minute. It stinks. We don't like change. And then go, all right, where's the opportunity exist? Because it does. It exists.
No, I agree. You know, that compression is super important because you're not spending your time wasting time, but you're actually spending your time with people that want to buy or sell real estate, which is the ultimate agenda here and something that we never think about again after we get our license, right? We're just thinking about everybody as a client, not a customer. One of the things that I think is interesting is, you know, I think Glenn said something to this effect, like this is the greatest experiment of personal development ever disguised under a real estate brokerage, right? But that's kind of what a lot of us get when we get over here. What I find to be an issue, this wasn't so much of an issue for me because I always stayed on the listing side of the business, so I could control my deal flow and control my pipeline, control all my prospecting. I always try to stay more on the throttle, right? But a lot of people are working a heavy ratio of buyers or even 50%. And you can't control your price range. You can't control where they sell. You can't control how many of them you can work at one time. Well, you just know it's not that many. So as you start looking at the business, the only way to regulate my income was through leverage and through controlling what's in front of me. Have you guys been able to regulate your income? Because I know the peaks and valleys is what probably tears most people away from being small business owners. Any thoughts on that? Anybody can go first. There's only 3 of us.
Riley, you want to take that?
I'm primarily a listing agent, and just because my background's marketing, like, and I enjoy that. And again, being an introvert, I don't want to be with the buyers and small talk and all that kind of stuff. So that's just me hiding behind that. But I think I'm just smart with my numbers and my money and my marketing costs. Like, again, a lot of people, I tell people don't spend money till you're making money, and be very intentional with what you're doing, because a lot of people chase shiny objects, and we're an amazing industry for that, right? Every day you can go find something new. And so I just had to figure out, okay, regardless of what the market's doing, I need to be financially smart with my marketing spend. I need to be financially smart with what I'm pouring into my business, and I'm putting the money back into my business to create a business, because like I said before, it was a hobby, and now I recognize the value of that. So again, I've always been doing the same thing. I don't even think my marketing costs had increased that much over the years. And it's surprising to me. I mean, even though I'm much more into luxury than I was before, like I have the luxury division, I've got some educational costs that I think have increased my spend a little bit, but not a lot. I mean, sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll tell me what they're spending, and I'm just like, why are you doing that? I think there's a lot. I think we just need to be smarter and wiser. We have a lot of tools. Again, going back to the resources, we have a lot of tools, so we don't have to even spend money, because eXp has already handled all the marketing for us. They've handled, all the buyer kits. They've handled all the listing kits, everything. So we're not having to recreate the wheel again. So I think you figuring out what your needs are and what you can eliminate right now, because all that I'm hearing is 2024 may be a lot like 2023. And 2023 was a worse market than 2008, which who knew? So if that's the case, I mean, what's the fable with the grasshopper and the ants?
Yeah.
Right. That's what I do. That's how I operate. That's how I've always operated, just so I can be smart now. And so I don't spend a ton of money on marketing, and I don't, just because I'm making more money, I'm trying to figure out how to be strategic in my business instead of throwing money here, there, and everywhere. So my marketing costs haven't really changed. So I think that's another reason why, regardless of what the market's doing, I do fine financially.
I had an unorthodox childhood from young parents, so I don't know the grasshopper and ant. Renee, is that was that the right was that the right analogy?
I've not heard it either. I think
What?
great the same, Rich. So
Where the
Elizabeth,
grasshoppers, like the ants are storing for the winter and they're planning, and the grasshoppers are all like, oh,
Okay, I'm just able to
let's
gauge.
go play, let's go
okay,
play.
we
And they're
got
like,
it.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
why is it all work?
Yeah, yeah.
How do you guys not
Elizabeth,
know this?
I'm able to gauge by your defensiveness and your confidence that you actually did
Rich,
hit.
you need your boys to go watch Ant Bully or something like that.
No,
I
they
think
got
that's part
their
of
mom. Their mom offsets a lot of what I can't bring to the table. It's a real complimentary type of situation. One of the things that I always feel like, and I know I'm speaking very, very subjectively here, is I can't stand the way real estate agents dress and act on social media. Like, I just feel like I can point one out in a crowd very quickly. How are you able to stay like authentic and earnest and have your own way of doing business and not have commission breath or be the Don King of self-promotion? Like, how can you do this business tasteful? I mean, you could be an actor like, I don't know, Ryan Gosling, or you could be like Paul Newman. I just prefer the latter. How are you able to be super cool in an industry when every single person around you and every conversation that's buzzwords come off, it puts you into that sensory mode of, oh, they have to know I'm a real estate agent. Are you guys able to manage that? Like, I think you're able to manage it. Are you able to quantify how you manage it?
I'll let Renee go first, but yeah.
Uh,
Sorry.
and I
Sure.
want to touch on this leverage thing too, Rich, because you
Oh,
asked
go
about
ahead. Start
leverage.
at the leverage, because the other question is
Ye-
totally irrelevant for somebody who's starving for business. Go ahead.
So leverage is one of the best things we can do, especially moving forward in this industry, is ask ourselves what leverage means to us. And I have to give props to the Elizabeth Rileys, the Rich Tomasinis, the Hank Avinks, Mitch Riback, like the leaders I have the honor to be around, because you all have gotten me to think about leverage differently. Right? There was really no one talking about leverage in previous brokerages. And so I was destined for a future that was going to be like everybody else, which was just like keep, income was only coming in if my feet hit the ground on Monday morning. And I'm really proud that I've been able as a team leader to redefine what out of production means, because there's this eXp narrative, like if you come to eXp, everybody will tell you to get out of production, not sell a house. Okay, well, come on, that narrative has got to go away. That's not factual in any way. However, when I heard there was a way to stop being in production full time and to build a team, that my team model was not going to require my production to be sustainable, I leaned in, because Jeff and I came out of production January 1st of 2021.
Okay.
We made the commitment, and it was a ramp up. It took us about 2 years to ramp up. We're still in our version of out of production. That means we probably close about 5-ish deals a year. We stay with our toes in the pond, agent to agent referrals, legacy customers we've had in our database for a long time. We are proud to have a team that we can say, this team is sustainable, and it's not on the back of me having to get up on Monday morning to go take the next listing, which, by the way, takes it out of the mouths of someone else that I'm a rainmaker for. And then that is because of the leverage at eXp that I've had, because we wouldn't have had it if it wasn't for 7 icons, revenue share opportunities, the stock purchase program, on and on and on. And of course, the humans that have taught us to think differently.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not a sports guy, so this analogy could be replaced with a better one. But like, if you're a football player, you want to graduate to where you're a coach and you're actually using all the knowledge and practical experience that you have to help the whole team win. Because before, you were winning every time you put the ball in your hand and you crossed an imaginary line. Now the whole team wins. And then at eXp, they actually offer you to get into the box and be an owner of the football team and not just the coach. So you're able to be the technician, you're able to be the coach, and you're able to have the ownership part of it. And this is one of the very few places where those conversations are not closed door, they're open door. And I think that's super attractive. Any thoughts on that, Elizabeth?
No, I mean, I agree. You guys give me a hard time all the time. They're like, why are you still in production? I'm like, I'm a real estate agent.
I'm going to continue
I
to do
don't
that.
know what they do. They give me a hard time. I don't know what to do with myself.
She's got
right?
12,000, by the way, she's got 12,000 agents in her organization. She spends more time at the airport than I spend on my couch. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, I think the impact for Elizabeth, I'm not making this as an unpaid and unqualified psychological couch moment for you, but I think the impact on Elizabeth at this point is far greater for the community than it is for however many people she can physically transact in a year. I
Yeah,
continue.
it's one of the things I say when it's not about income, it's about impact.
Yeah.
And I'm having more fun in these 9 years than I probably had the first 10 combined. It was a job then. And it wasn't fulfilling. And again, my husband was the sole provider. I don't feel like this is a job. I mean, we were building somebody else's dream than building our own. At eXp, we're all building this together. And when you're building something and you own something, you treat it different. And so I work harder and more hours than I ever did before because this is amazing. Like what we're able to do and the friendships and the relationships, and we're all leveraging different. So I'm still in production. Now, I'm leveraging that a little bit different now too, because I can give more of my production. That's why my numbers went down last year, because I gave more of that away. But I just like to serve people and I want more of us to win, and I want all of us to win together because it's a lot more fun. So I'll be out of production at some point, but I'll never be out of production, because that's, by the way, that's my attraction piece. I'm relevant, I'm current, I'm
Yeah.
relatable, but I never want anybody to see me, and especially with my kids, because I'm very involved with my kids' schools. Like those are my networks. I never want anybody to see me and say, oh my gosh, there's Elizabeth, that's Tripp's mom Run. She's going to talk about real estate. But I want them all to know that I'm in real estate, and they're seeing that because I am so involved in the community. And I mean, that's just what I want to do. And I serve a lot of things. I'm on boards and I support things. So you just got to figure out what's authentic to who you are, and you're going to attract the people that you're supposed to attract. And so for me, staying in production, it keeps me in those circles a little bit differently. Not to say I'll
No
always
brain
be in that,
rust.
but yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy it still.
So let me ask you. No, I agree. I'm just messing with
I
you.
know. I know.
So like for me, basically, if I were to go back the last 10 or 15 years on my own personal development, there was things that I was doing that were holding me back. And I had to change into having different qualities and different mindsets in order for me to open up my income. The biggest blockade that I had in my entire life was myself. And,
Mhm.
I had narratives in my head, I had presumptions, I was impatient. There was a lot of things that were less than neutral that had to change for me to then warrant the kind of income that I was searching for and resentful that I wasn't able to get a hold of. What would you guys say in the last, well, for both of you guys here, almost 10 years at this company, what are the things that you've had to let go of that some of these other folks would probably have to let go of as well? I think a lot of us
Hmm.
are making the same mistakes, but we're just not talking about it.
I would say the let go of some false ideal that you're going to stop failing, right? And this is a lesson, you see really great leaders talk about. Glenn Sanford, the founder of eXp Realty, shared something years ago that hit me in my core, and it was, he talks about always being beta, and as long as we're continuing to thrive and achieve the next level of greatness, like the leaders that are telling the truth have a complete shit show behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Because if you're not breaking it, if you're not building it and then breaking it and getting it better and next iteration, then you're probably in coast mode. Not to say it's not a bad thing to be in coast mode. I look to be at coast mode in some point in the future. I'm not ready yet, and I'm proud to be with eXp that is nowhere near coast mode. We have so much where to go, and I love that our leadership thinks of it in a way of, number one is you got to be breaking it to get it better. You got to build its next version of itself. And also just remind yourself that when it feels messy like that, because one of the questions, Rich, that we asked the last 5 Mondays, we asked panelists of like, how many times do you feel like quitting? I feel like quitting a lot, like a lot. Felt like quitting the most in 2024 than I have in probably my entire career.
Is that
2020.
is that burnout, or is that what is that?
Responsibility.
Too much?
Responsibility. No, not too much. Taking it responsible of, in order to stand up tall and say, we got this, we need to make sure we really understand how to navigate change. And so at the end of the day, change isn't fun, right? I can stand in confidence and say 2024 is a great opportunity. I'm also going to stand in humbleness and say, as a leader, it's okay to say, I failed. I felt like quitting. I'm not going to pound on my chest and say, look at me, I'm so good. It's the me show. It's that I guarantee the people that are around us, we are getting through this and we're going to soar and come out better on the other side. And it's because of people like you too. It's because of our leadership at eXp who won't allow anyone to sit too long in that failure thought process. You can have your moment, lick your wounds. Now get up and get out there and make it freaking happen.
Yeah. So it's, that's, you got somebody doing $300 million of real estate a year in Orlando telling you that this was the most amount of quitting they've ever thought this year, many years in the business, right? I mean, that's interesting. Yeah. I think I don't know if I have had that recently, to be honest with you. But I have felt like killing people. A little different, but homicide has crossed my mind a few times.
Yeah, that's probably not good, Rich.
Yeah, I know. So I should have internalized that.
Let
Elizabeth,
me just say one more thing on the quit, because it's not about, like, everybody normalize that. It's not about feeling like quitting that's the problem. It's if you're not around people who won't allow you to go, okay, great, now move on.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. If you go into the fetal position, you're gonna get bothered by tons of people until you get up. And that's one of the gold nuggets of this company, actually. I agree with that. Elizabeth,
Yeah. So I would say, a lot of people had a rough 2023. Mine wasn't so rough. My 2024 is brutal. And so it's hard when you're seen as a leader, to always lead. And one of the things I had to get out of my head was that I wasn't a leader. For a long time, I didn't really think of myself as a leader. And what I recognized is we're all leaders. We're all leaders, and you don't have to check a box. You don't have to do certain things in order to be okay. Now you're a leader, right? We're all leader in our own ways. And I will talk about my own market. I mean, for a long time, I felt like I was like little mother hen pulling everybody in my market, trying to keep everybody together. And here's what's happened there recently, probably 6-9 months. We have a lot of amazing agents that have joined our company, and they're in our network and they're in our masterminds, and they're all leading in different ways. I see Megan Clark is one of them, right? It's like now they've all put this energy back into where I was feeling burnout, or that I wasn't doing enough, or I wasn't enough, or that I wasn't leading in the right way to inspire other people, right? So there's a responsibility. I mean, to Renee, I know exactly what you mean when you say responsibility. And I was like, okay, why am I doing this if it's not moving the needle, making a difference? And then you get this new energy with all these people leading in different ways. So what I want to encourage is we're all leaders. Every single one of us are leaders. Even if you're a brand new agent, you have qualities to bring to the table. And when we all bring our superpowers together, we're unstoppable. But I was in my head for a long, long time going, I'm not a leader. Like, I have nothing to share and I have nothing to give. And Chuck Fosdy was one of those who pounded in my head. He's like, yeah, you are. And these are your strengths. And these are what you need to, embrace. And so that's what I try to do with others. And quite frankly, and I'm failing forward every single day. I mean, when we got on the call, like, I dropped, I talk about having balls in the air all the time. I live with balls in the air all the time, and I'm just trying not to drop the glass ones, right? If any of you guys can relate to that, I dropped a major glass one last night, right? And it completely flattened me. And it's like, what do you do in those moments? You pick yourself up. You don't let yourself quit. You don't let yourself hide in a fetal position, and we're all going to be better for it. And so I just try to show up every day to be that person, not only for me and my family, but those in my community, those in our eXp community, those in my, real estate circles. And when you recognize that we all have something incredibly valuable and important to give, it changes the conversation, it changes the mindset. And I think that's just important for everybody to recognize.
Well, between the three of us on this call, we have about 15,000 people that have our phone numbers. So I'm going to keep you within the 1 hour that you guys offered, and I appreciate that. My takeaway from both of your statements, I think the hybrid between the two is, it sucks being in leadership when you're not gaining ground, but that doesn't mean that you're not leading. Sometimes the needle just doesn't move, and that's where it gets really, really hard.
Or it moves really slowly. Yeah.
That's where it's most crucial, though. You can't run and go AWOL. You got to stay in the storm. and navigate through. So I appreciate both of you guys. I've learned a lot off both of you. I've watched Elizabeth and Renee both teach classes in person, despite our locations are drastically different for all three of us. And I've watched you both speak on stage, and I've watched eXp both sort of gravitate toward your ambassadorship of what a good eXp agent looks like. So I appreciate your example, and thanks for finishing up the series for us.
Thank you, friend, for having us and for all you
Yeah.
do, because you are instrumental in the growth that I've experienced too.
I'm
So
trying to keep the level real, the standards real low, and I want you
yeah,
to
well,
make sure everybody else sits comfortably in the spectrum. Anyway, listen, this is our last Facebook Live, so we're going right back to Workplace on eXp Family Tree, and we will see you guys in all of our training that we do. Thanks, Renee. Thank you, Elizabeth. And thanks for everybody that
bye,
joined us.
y'all.
Much love, everybody. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Bye.